Journey with Judy. Honest, open, transparent. It's hot.
There's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as a perfect life. So come as you are, broken and scarred. Lift up your heart and be amazed and be changed by.
Okay, welcome to Journey with Judy. My friends, I have been on this whirlwind tour. I got to go to Arizona 2 weeks back to back, and I'm going to have to save that story for another day. But I do want to draw your attention to our shelter experience. We had, every time we say it was the best experience at the shelter. Here's what made it a bummer. We were 2 kids shy. So there were 4 Hehrs instead of 6 Hehrs at the Twin Oaks shelter on Thanksgiving Day. But we walked away saying it was the best Thanksgiving ever, like the best. And you really cannot judge people in the shelter, but we were judging this group of people as, I don't know, the most grateful, the most engaging, the most whatever. And who knows, it was just through our eyes in which we judged it. So we could have read the whole thing wrong, but it was absolutely amazing. And here's what's so funny. I'm going to consider my opening story the Sunday morning confessions, okay? Because inevitably, when we go to the shelter, the people that are there are just gushing with, thank you so much, and you're so wonderful. And here's the deal. I make an announcement every single Thanksgiving at the shelter that we are not nice people, that we are completely self-serving, and we do all of this for our own personal satisfaction. And when they don't believe that, I have to make it clear how this tradition started in my family. So in 2003, when my man and I were just on the verge of a divorce, we did not want to be with my family, and his family had other plans out of state or something. And so we ended up seeking out an opportunity to get away from our family at Thanksgiving. It was absolutely an intentional and deliberate, what can we do in order to get out of being with our family? And so what we did was we found an opportunity to go to the Twin Oaks shelter in Darien, and that has since become our family tradition. So I have to confess, it wasn't about being kind and life-giving and caring about anyone other than myself. It was literally a way to get away from my family. So that is one of my many confessions this morning. And as it turned out, before I go on to my next confessions, God just always blesses that. He doesn't even care about the motive or even the intention, because the fact is that when we do sometimes those things that whether we feel led to do or we have to do, somehow the burden becomes a blessing. Somehow we leave feeling better than we went to those equations when we make stuff not about us. So it's when we're in our own little world, I think, that we miss some of that. And so that's kind of going to be the theme of today's show. But why I'm confessing, guys, I don't even have any Christmas decorations up. Robin doesn't either. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I feel like Robin and I are the only 2 people. I don't have any decorations up, and truth be told, I don't even want to put them up. And it has nothing to do with me recognizing Jesus and Christmas and all of that. I don't know. I just haven't done it. And I said to my kids, like, do I really have to do it? And they said, yeah. Like, they looked at me like I had 4 heads. Like, of course you have to. Okay. The other thing is my house hasn't been cleaned in probably a month. Robin is totally relating with show. Okay. And, I used to have people clean my house. And when I just want some people to come back and do everything for me. I remember back in the day, right, in the height of when I was a legend in my own mind, when I had people who put up my Christmas decorations for me. They literally would come, put up my tree, wrap my kids' presents, literally, decorate my house. Yeah. And obviously I had people that cleaned my house. I didn't only not clean my house, I haven't even cleaned my bathrooms in 2 weeks. Okay, friends, my refrigerator is full of condiments. There's nothing to eat in my house except condiments. I mean, I guess you could make a ketchup or mayonnaise sandwich. I've been so busy. I have canceled 2 mammogram appointments, which is kind of important. That's a confession. I'm confessing, so then maybe I'll step up my game and do it, right? I did not take a prescription that I picked up from McCullough's because I just kind of forgot, and I'm not feeling any better as a result of it. So still I have bronchitis, mostly because I was living in my own little world and did not. I was so rude to the lady at Walmart because she she was talking and talking, and not even to me. She was talking and talking to the person in front of me. And like, I wanted her to get that belt moving. You know, that belt, like, you know, you line up your groceries in some organized fashion and hope that at the end they go in the bag you wanted them to go in, or I undo it all. Well, I was like, hey, can you get the belt moving? And she looked at me like, how rude are you? So I was super rude to the lady at Walmart. If she was talking to me, it would have been fine. I was so tired because I just flew in from out of town, and I literally thought about calling my boss, Nancy Douglas, and giving this huge lie about why I couldn't come today, like some really family emergency. I didn't. I'm here, even though I'm tired. I lost my best pair of shoes when I was in North Dakota, which I didn't realize until I went searching for them this past week when I had a really big corporate opportunity and I needed to dress the part. Unlike the yoga pants that I'm wearing right now. And guess where they are? I think they're in a bathroom in North Dakota because my feet were bothering me. I took them off and I think I left them in a bathroom in North Dakota. I was so mad at my kid this past week that I wanted to kill him. But instead, I just like remained in my own little world. Robin's giving me the twist. Yeah, Robin's like, Mick, pour another drink. I'm so mad at my man. I'm wondering why I even married him. Okay, I'll end with this. Well, two more things. I went to Arizona 2 weeks in a row, which was completely fiscally irresponsible. I almost got attacked by a javelina animal. Do you even know what that is? I will tell you that after this segment. Okay, and lastly, I went 2 days with yesterday's hair. You're a hot mess. You know how you do yesterday's hair? I have like the day before yesterday's hair. 2 days of dirty hair. And one more thing, okay? I did know a couple more things that I can have this first segment as long as I want to have it. It is my show. It is called Journey with Judy, so it's not 5 minutes today. It's 8 minute opening segment. I have been avoiding paying this person for a service that she provided because I don't feel like she provided the service. Okay, well, but I agreed to pay for it, and I made up some reason about why I didn't pay her. So anyway, I don't know if that's inappropriate or not, but this show is honest, it's open and transparent, and those are my confessions. Wait, one more. I drove to Illinois for this really big opportunity I had at Abbott Labs to present a workshop for them. I just want to just pat myself on the back. We absolutely killed it, me and my team of girls. But I want you to know that I had more people giving me the finger. And I heard more honks, and people were honking at me and giving me the finger more times in that hour and a half drive than I can recall in like the last 2 years. Anyway, do I care? I do not care about my yesterday's hair. You're journeying with Judy right here on the day before yesterday's hair. You're journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1, and I think that coffee is kicking in. We'll be back after the break. All right, so thanks for bearing with my Sunday morning confessions. I double-checked my list, and I noticed that one thing I didn't tell you is that I have not been to confession. I am a person who, my faith background is Catholic, and we're all about confession. And I have not been in months. So that's my final confession. And I think that if you could just absolve me of my sins, I will move on and sin no more. Because here's the deal. Whether you do or not, I know that Jesus does forgive me. And he forgives me for my past sins, my future sins. He even knows what those are going to be. And my current sins. Now, here's the deal. The examples that I just gave you about with all these confessions, the bottom line was I was just growing weary. I mean, every example that I gave you had everything to do with me living in my own little world and kind of and sometimes I think, let's be honest, sometimes it's intentional. We absolutely retreat to those places where it's like we're just done. We're literally just done giving. We feel like we have nothing more to give. We think that it's so unfair that we're always doing the giving and never getting the taking. My father told me from an early age, there's givers and takers. Put them in a category. Most oftentimes they do not switch categories in the course of their lifetime. And I'd like to think at one time I was a taker and now I'm a giver. But here's the difference in my giving now. A little sidebar. And I know you're used to this 5 years into this show. So I used to be a giver with a lot of conditions and stipulations and expectations. And now, honestly, I give a little bit different way. And I believe that's because God has changed my heart. But here's why. It is because for a long period of time, and we know this, we know that big things, big opportunities start with little steps. So I took a lot of little steps. When we started back in 2003, rebuilding our marriage, our family, we took little steps moving in a direction, and that direction was outside of ourselves. And we became people who lived our lives in service of other people. And you know what? When you're living in service of other people, you do not grow weary, because you are renewed and you are refreshed and you are revived on a daily basis, because it is so not about you. And when you don't, and when you are living in your own little world, chances are there's more discouragement. There's more feelings of despondence and feeling defeated and maybe even disillusioned, right? I mean, when we're growing weary, it would make sense that those thoughts, feelings, and actions would not serve us best. Rob, would you agree with that?
I totally agree.
Yeah. So God promises that, if we don't grow weary, that in due time, he's going to give us that which we, first of all, could never have asked, dreamed, or imagined. Second of all, maybe something we're not even deserving of. But the fact is he makes this promise. And I was super mindful preparing for today's show that I've been kind of growing weary. And when I said to Robin, there's only one way to coast. We don't want to be coasting. As people of faith, as wives, as mothers, as in the workplace, there's just only one way to coast, and it doesn't end well. Like, we are living in a place and space and times where we got to be deliberate, we got to be intentional, and we got to be mindful of how our impact, right, affects somebody else. And when we're growing weary, we don't put up our Christmas decorations. We don't clean our house. We're not nice to the girl at Walmart. We don't take our prescriptions. We don't get our mammograms. We don't pay our bills. We just literally are living in our own little world. And here's the deal. There's a way bigger picture and that you're missing out on. There's a way greater purpose that you could be living right now for every one of those times that you choose, because it is a choice, right? It's a choice to live in your own little world. And let me just clarify, retreating and having that downtime that is so necessary for us to be renewed and be refreshed, and spending that time with Jesus so he can remind us that he still is who he says he is, and we are who he says we are, because sometimes we can forget that. It helps us to have thoughts and feelings and actions that serve us on a way better scale. So let's talk about what it means to not grow weary. So our scripture verse today, and I think I might get cut off halfway through, but let's just try to get it through this segment, is do not grow weary. Do not grow weary in doing good, because for in the proper time, like that means God's time, not your time. And just for the record, God's always on time. Seems like he's a little late at times, but in proper time, God's time, in due season, you will reap. And here's when you will reap: when you don't give up. So when you take your foot off the gas, the odds are you grow weary. When we're not deliberate and intentional about what it is we are thinking, feeling, and acting on, we can find ourselves in situations that don't serve the people that we love best, nor do they serve our highest and best good. When we lose sight of our hopes and our dreams, and we get consumed with our fears and our faults and our failures, it makes sense that we retreat into our own little world. One of the things about my daughter, Kennedy, now that she has committed to playing volleyball at the next level, my fear is that she'll grow weary. Now, like, I got that. I'm done with that. I don't need to keep my foot on the gas because that's, part of my future. And equally, I share that concern about my son, Carter, who just completed his student athlete career at the University of Arizona. And it's like, I wonder now, will they grow weary? Do they still go with the same vengeance and intentionality and being deliberate if it's a done deal? Like, I don't know. I think personally, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And I am one of those people who has two speeds, Robs. It's off or wide open. If I'm not going for it big time, I'm literally horizontal in a coma. It's one way or the other. Anyway, I think I'm going to go to break at this time and come back and talk about growing weary and doing good. For in the proper time, God's time, you will reap if you don't give up. So you're journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. Do not give up and do not give in on this show today. Stay with me after the break. Thank you to Greg Cunis for sponsoring this show. We'll be back.
What if there's a bigger picture? What if I'm missing out?
All right, so this was definitely my theme song for about 40 years, and it seems like in the last week I regressed. It's funny how we do that. We act on what we remember most, and for some reason I was not remembering to the degree that being in your own little world doesn't always end as well as when you're living life for someone else. Because when you're living in your own little world, Matthew West goes on to say, what if there's a bigger picture? What if I'm missing out? What if there's a greater purpose I could be living right now? I got to tell you, I am so living my purpose. This past week, I got to step back into corporate America on such a profound level. It was so fun. It was so amazing. And I just stepped into it in a different level than I have been for the last couple months. And it's just that feeling like when you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's a feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment. And really, I think it's overwhelming gratitude that God is who he is, that we are who we are. And somewhere in between, he makes these amazing things come. And here's when he does it. When we're not growing weary. When we're willing to, so let me read the verse again. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in the proper time, God's time, in due season, you will reap. So we're never, ever supposed to be growing weary. So raise your hand if you're tired. Yeah, like Rob's, me, we're tired and we're weary. And weary by definition means fainting, despondent, discouraged, and flagging. You know, the verse says, let us never. I was weary this past week. I just gave you a confession of 20 things that I did that weren't, in benefit of my highest and best good. I wasn't feeling satisfied, fulfilled, and content. And here's why. Because I was weary. Right? If you feel like you have to do something, then most likely you're not led to do something. And if we could move from a got to a get to, like I got to do this to a get to do this, it's a deal changer for us. It changes everything when we make the decision to want to and realize that most everything we're doing, going to work, paying our bills, loving our spouses, parenting our children, it is a complete and utter get to. And so let's not make it a have to. So if we're not going to be growing weary in doing good, because when we get tired and discouraged because we're trying so hard to do good, the motive and the intention kind of matters. I mean, it matters to us. I said in the beginning of the show, it doesn't matter to God because he will take he takes a small little seed of intention and makes it into something so great. But when our motives and intentions in doing good are for something other than the simple fact of doing good, it doesn't feel the same way. It leaves us feeling unsettled and uncertain. So there's a quote I want to share with you. It says, make a living by what you make a life by what you give. Right? So it's easy to get caught in the financial piece of what being a human doing instead of a human being. Right? Okay, so I'm running out of time. So do not grow weary in doing good, for in the proper time. In the proper time is God's time. It's when God says, because when God says is always when it's best. And I hate the waiting. Like the waiting is the hardest part. Tom Petty wrote a song about that one time. It's the hardest part. But here's what it also is. It is the best part for me, because in the waiting is when something happens within me where I get to make a choice to not grow weary, because I trust that God is faithful to keep his promises. And I know that the divine schedule is not altered by my impatience. I know that God is not going to put me in a different place in his Google Calendar just because I think it's time, right? I mean, God might be slow, but he is never late. For in his time, we will receive in due season. So right now we're in Advent season. It's about waiting. It's about anticipating. Waiting and anticipating feels different than being despondent and discouraged and not trusting. Okay, so I want to be someone who is anxiously awaiting. We wait in joyful hope. We say that at Mass. We wait in joyful hope for the coming of the Lord. He's going to show up on time in his time, which is the right time for our time. And here's what we get. We're going to reap. The verse goes on to say you will reap. Maybe not in the ways that you thought or the ways that you expected. And that is what messes us up when we have this vision of our head of how it was supposed to be and it doesn't end that way. It doesn't mean that it was bad. It just means it wasn't the way we expected it to be. So God he's faithful to keep his promises. And I'm waiting for Robin to give me the one finger. All right. So the bottom line is we can't give up. The verse ends with, do not give up. We quit. We give up right when we're on the cusp. I mean, Jonah was in the belly of the whale. It was the third day that the thing happened. Jesus was on the cross. The third day is when it happened. And I'm not promising you that you will reap your harvest on the third day. I mean, for some of you, it might be 30 days, 300 days, 3,000 days. But I promise you, God is faithful. He is faithful to keep his promises. There is a bigger picture. You don't want to miss out. There is a greater purpose that you get to be living right now. So this week, I pray that you wait in joyful hope on a Lord who will come through for you. I promise. Thanks for journeying with me. Keep it hot, honest, open, and transparent. Peace out.